Hey, what's up, guys? I know it's been a while and I'm really going to try and get back on track. It's obviously been a bit hectic, a lot of changes going on over here, but I had a really good kind of question come in that I felt definitely deserved a video, and it's projections, the importance of them, what are the do's and don'ts. So I've got kind of a bit of a top five list on, everything involving film projections or estimates. So the first one is, should I or shouldn't I? Should I get projections or should I not get projections? Yes, you should have projections on your film. At an early stage, they're definitely valuable, not just in fundraising, they're valuable in you making educated, calculated decisions as to how to set up your production. So for example, if let's just say you had the most accurate projections in the world and those projections are coming in under what you know your bottom line budget is, well, you know you need to make some changes to your budget and probably need to make some changes to your script. So with that, however, there's some obstacles in getting those accurate projections. And again, I mean, it's like if let's say you're a toy manufacturer, you're not going to go make a toy that's so expensive that it's above what your demographic is willing to pay for that toy. It's the same thing in the film industry. You've got buyers out there like Lionsgate and Sony, Shout Factory and Gravitas. These companies know what the consumer behavior is going to be, and they're not going to overspend. Everybody needs to get paid for what they're good at. So when you're getting projections, you need to get them as conservative as you can. There is an inherent, and this is a part of kind of the number two, but I'll just say there is an inherent problem. Most projections are done by sales agents, and they are sort of, in general, they're motivated to inflate their projections because they want to get you to sign on the dotted line so that they get the sales rates on your picture, and that's obviously a problem. I should definitely say that, yes, it's true. One sales agent might have better relationships with certain distributors than another. They're going to be able to squeak out more money, or they'll be able to get the attention of the correct buyers. But if the higher the level your project, the bigger the name talent, the more attractive it is, it starts to become a little bit more of an even playing field. If you've got a highly competitive movie, everybody's going to want it, and you're going to see what those maximum numbers really kind of look like, and they're all going to be pretty much in the same range, right? Give or take. On the high end, if you're dealing with an 8-figure budget, you might see a difference of 50 to 100,000, maybe 150,000. It could be more if a big company like Netflix wants to come in, the 800-pound gorilla, and they say, look, we want worldwide rights and we want exclusive, no one else gets to touch it. Yeah, all right, they're going to swing for the fences, but as a producer, that's not the thing that you want to plan for. You don't want to plan for the exception, you want to plan for the rule. You got to be really careful. You got to know who your sales agent is if they're the ones doing your projections. But again, point number one, should I or shouldn't I? Yes, you should. You should have projections. It is like any other startup that you want to do. Every single movie is like a little mini startup company, and you need to know what your market looks like before you pull the trigger and start spending your investors' money. The second thing, where to get your projections. Like I said, the first location is obviously sales agents. I discussed the inherent problem with that. Now, let's say you find a sales agent that you really like, you really trust them. You still want to do a little bit of your homework. You want to make sure that they actually kind of specialize in the product that it is that you're producing. So if you're making an action movie, but you're getting projections from a sales company that no doubt is stellar and trustworthy, but they specialize in documentaries, they might not be the best fit, number one, and they might also not have the best and most accurate projections because they're dealing with some different buyers, right? So if I'm producing a documentary Sure, Netflix would be a great location. Shout Factory, great location. Gravitas, they crush it when it comes to documentaries. As a matter of fact, I think one of their recent ones this past year was nominated for an Academy Award. Would I go to Lionsgate? Probably not. Would I go to Samuel Goldwyn Films? Probably not. They're probably not going to be the best buyer. Always exceptions to the rule, but when you're in those planning stages and you want to make sure you're setting yourself up for success, you really want to know that the sales company that's running your projections has those correct relationships, and also their experience justifies any kind of estimates that they're providing you. The next, the best place to get them is from the horse's mouth. Instead of going to a sales agent, if let's say you're really already connected with distributors, if you can get distributors to put some numbers on paper, man, you're getting it from the horse's mouth. They are the buyer. There's a major caveat here. They're reluctant to giving projections because there's a few things that can happen. First of all, they don't, even if it's non-binding, even if they're not giving you any guarantees, especially by a big distributor giving projections on a film, let's say on a theoretical cast, that can drive up those cast members' quotes if those projections were to get out into the public domain, right? So if they become disseminated and it lands on the desk of one of these big name talent agents, that agent may end up bumping up his client's quote. And it's the agent's job to do that if he feels that the market can support it, but agents are not producers and they don't realize all the other costs that go into it. So you got to be careful there. The one where you got to be really, really careful is I've seen a handful of these non-sales agent, non-distributor kind of upstarts, if you will, that are offering projections based on algorithms, based on basically not based on experience, but just based on data that they are harvesting freely from the internet in various resources. All of their projections are worthless. Period. Hands down, they're worthless. We had a client come to us, fairly large company, production company, development company. They came to me kind of just as like a question mark, like, hey, we're paying this company to do our projections. Can you take a look and let us know what you think? Because you guys both sell, you distribute, you produce, you finance. And I looked at these and they were not only worthless, but there were like a lot of red flags in there that made it very clear right off the bat that the company that drafted the projections don't even understand the distribution industry. So any company that you can pay and get projections and they don't sell or they don't distribute, don't waste your time. And further to that, if you're trying to attract investors who are savvy to the industry, they're gonna want to know who ran your projections, and if it's from one of those companies, it's not going to make you look good. It's going to make you look bad. It's going to work against you. So number one, get projections. Number two, number one, make sure that they are conservative. You don't want to operate on the high. You want to operate on the low estimates. And number two, make sure that you're getting projections from a reputable source. It doesn't need to be a household name, but it needs to be a name that passes a good vetting. Third thing, on the note of pitching investors, because, yes, projections are really valuable when you're trying to figure out how much you should spend, can spend, but they're also valuable in pitching investors because it shows that you understand the market, you're doing your homework, and it's giving your investors a more transparent view into what the market looks like once you have a completed project, or even if you're pre-selling the film. One of the biggest mistakes I see made by filmmakers who haven't done very much work is they treat their projections as collateral, or they try to. So they'll pitch an investor and they'll say, hey, I've got these estimates. Here's the lows. Here's our lowest estimates. Those are guaranteed. Give us the money, we're good to go. They're not. They're not good to go. Now, the bigger the movie you have, the bigger the talent, the better genre, the more marketable genres. Yeah, if you've gotten good projections, you're in a good neighborhood. If, on the other hand, you're doing a low budget film, let's say 250 grand, $500,000, you've got some recognizable talent, not necessarily some bankable talent. Your low estimates are actually more of a guideline for your sales process because you're not going to sell every single territory in the world. So those projections are not actually accurate because if, let's say, you've got a drama or, God forbid, a comedy. Comedies don't travel well. What you and I find funny in the United States, other friends of ours in, Japan or Korea, they don't find it funny. And so there's going to be a lot of territories where you have a number in those projections and it says, hey, here's our, high, medium, and low, but you might not sell the territory at all. Or it might take you a year or 2 years to sell that territory. So that number turns out to be a goose egg, and that kind of messes everything up. If you've got an action movie with big name talent and, rocking an 8-figure budget, you're going to sell every territory and you'll be okay. But do not use your projections as collateral because they're not collateral. They're estimates. That's all they are. They're not a guarantee. A guarantee on projections would be a pre-sale. That's a minimum guarantee. That's an entirely different topic, not for today. The fourth thing, without having name talent as a variable in what your projections are being run against, the projections are worthless. Hate to say it, but as there's so many directors out there and screenwriters out there or writer-directors out there that you're convinced that you can just simply make the best movie and everybody's going to want it. Well, fine, maybe you are, maybe it will be, but in terms of estimates, in terms of intelligently putting together this little mini startup of a movie or large startup, without name talent as a variable, it's impossible to run accurate projections because, frankly speaking, audiences make 95%, 99% of their decisions based on who's in the movie. There's a little bit of wiggle room there, obviously, with documentaries. Then it can really become subject related, but documentaries are far lower budget. And again, that still would need to kind of play into your projections and who you're having run your projections. So, put together your talent lists, kind of your wish list, and your projections should be somewhat predicated on that. And in an ideal scenario, the way that we run them, if we're looking at something to invest in, is we'll take the wish list, but then we will take, we'll highlight or bold some of the names that we know are going to hit the mediums. We are going to, highlight and bold different names that are going to hit the highs. And so we can really figure out, well, okay, these are the names that are going to get us into this range, and these are the names that are going to get us into the mid range or the high range. And then you can further tweak your above the line budget to make sure that you're making appropriate offers financially. The last thing, genres do have an impact. If you, and this could be a vetting thing, if you send off a drama with certain name talent to, let's say, a sales agent to get projections, and then you send them an action film with the same name bankable talent to get projections, if those projections come back and they are remotely similar, throw both of them away. They're incorrect. Genre matters. Actions and thrillers, without a doubt, easiest to sell. You're going to typically get your highest numbers there. Horror is kind of in that list. Next down, comedy. Again, what you and I find funny, foreign territories might not find as funny. So the projections should be really on a typical comedy. If you're shooting a movie in North America, you should see that your North American projections are heavily weighted. So if you've got an action or a thriller, your North American, estimates should probably be around a third of what your budget is, call it 30%. If you've got a comedy, you really need to make sure that your North American sale is covering like 50% of your budget. That's just that's where it's floating. Furthermore, with dramas, look, a good drama those are the award winners. Those are also the risk takers, because unlike a mediocre thriller or horror or action or even a mediocre comedy, a drama, in order for it to be successful, it actually has to be a good movie. The script has to be good. The movie has to be good. The talent has to bring it. It has to be a good movie. There's a reason why dramas get, most of the accolades, and it's because like audiences only mess around with the drama if it's really good. So unfortunately, projections on dramas are, I would say, difficult, sort of regardless of name talent. And there comes one more little caveat where if you're getting good projections, those projections should also come with a small set of kind of assumptions. So if I'm running projections on an action movie, my assumptions will be it might have a list that'll say, look, here are the projections, but these projections are based on securing at least one name from the talent list in column A that's provided, and one name from the talent list in column B, let's say. In a drama, if you want to see really healthy ones, if you're able to shoot the whole drama for less than $1 million and you still have name talent, okay, the projections might be pretty darn safe. But if you're spending a lot of money, if this is a period piece, if for whatever reason it's a really expensive film to shoot, other caveats should be considered. You might want to have different sets of projections. One is like pre-sale projections, very difficult on a drama unless you've got a big name director or there are other circumstances that are elevating the estimates. But then you might have another set of projections that will be like, well, if the film gets into competition at one of the major festivals, right? So we're talking like Sundance, TIFF, Toronto, South by Southwest, Tribeca, Cannes. If it gets into one of these major festivals, here's a new set of projections. Because when you get into competition at one of those guys, you're taken in a new light. You're able to put those film festival laurels up on your key art, your poster. It elevates the value of your project. You might even go so far as to say, hey, if we win any award at one of those festivals, here's a new set of projections. So there are variables to consider beyond just your script and your story. You do have to consider the market, and you've got to consider the talent, which is really largely what the market is buying on the low end, especially on pre-sale. So that's it. That's what I got for you today. Be careful with your projections. Do not treat them like gold. Definitely don't use them as collateral or pitch them as collateral, because any investor that understands the industry is going to not look too kindly on you. But at the end of the day, you're making a startup. Every time that you do a film, you've got your own little startup, and it's short-lived, but you need to treat it super serious, and the only way you can understand it is by having some understanding of how your project is going to be received in the market. So that's what I got for you. As always, send in any questions that you want answered, and I'll get to them. All right, take it easy. Aloha.